So I want to talk about Israel bombing the only Catholic church left in Gaza and why, unfortunately, I don't think it's going to make that much of a difference for Western support for Israel's ongoing genocide in Gaza and the West Bank and their attacks on Syria and Lebanon and all of their other neighbors. Because, so firstly, let's speak about what happened. This is the Middle East Eye article on it. I'm just going to read an extract from it and then I'll give kind of my why this isn't really going to have an impact on Israel and support for Israel. So, an Israeli bombing of the only Catholic church in the Gaza Strip on Thursday has killed 2 women and wounded another Palestinian, including a pastor. The attack on the Holy Family Church, also known as the Latin Monastery Church, has sparked worldwide condemnation, including a backlash from Italian Prime Minister Giorgia Meloni, well-known fascist. That was my interjection. The Latin Patriarchate in Jerusalem confirmed that Father Gabriel Romelli was wounded in the strike and said there was significant damage to the building. The Patriarchate added that the strike resulted in casualties of displaced civilians who were taking shelter inside the church. The Israeli army has previously targeted the church, causing extensive damage. This is important. Western sources aren't talking about how Israel has already bombed this church. Since Israel's war in Gaza, Palestinians have sought refuge in places of worship across the Gaza Strip, including churches and mosques. Early this year, the spokesman for Gaza Ministry of Endowment told Anadolu Agency that 3 churches had been demolished in Gaza since the 7th of October 1939, while 79% of mosques have been destroyed. 3 churches and 79% of mosques. This sounds like something that a religio-fascist regime would do, to destroy places of worship before you colonize a location. Why do you think this religio-fascist regime is thinking about destroying places of worship? 1, to demoralize the population, especially, the religious population, of course. And 2, to make way for building their own religious places of worship without competition of other places of worship. India is doing this. In India, they are either destroying mosques or reconstituting mosques as temples. I'm sure someone who is a Hindutva is going to find this video and then call me all sorts of names under the sun. Following the strike on Thursday, the Israeli Foreign Ministry says Israel never targets churches or religious sites and regrets any harm to a religious site or to uninvolved civilians. This is hilarious because of this previous statement. The statement added that the army was examining this incident, that the circumstances of which are still unclear, and the result of the investigation will be published transparently. Israeli attacks on mosques and churches since the beginning of war have been widely documented, obviously. Hamas condemned the Thursday attacks, saying that the statement that it represents a new crime committed against places of worship and innocent displaced person. The enemy's continued heinous massacres, its policy of starving our people in the Gaza Strip, who, as of 1 hour ago, as we were recording this, another 10 people were murdered trying to get food at an aid distribution site by Israelis. The killing of innocent civilians in all areas of the Gaza Strip, and the targeting of mosques, churches, hospitals, bakeries, water wells, and all city facilities constitute flagrant war crimes, the Palestinian movement said. So, and there's more in this article about how the UN reacted, but I want to concentrate basically on this, why this isn't going to change anything. So, I won't scroll all the way up because this image might actually get me this video suppressed on YouTube. So we'll just keep it on here. You can see the cultural heritage sites. So, why I think this won't make a difference. There are a few strands as to what I want to go with. So let's go with the obvious one. Israel has been doing this for the past 2 years, and no one has done anything about it. Mosques being destroyed, set on fire, being vandalized, churches being demolished, being bombed, being destroyed, people in churches being shot and bombed and blown up. This hasn't changed the West's perception of Israel, or at least the West's way of working with Israel. They don't care. These hyper-capitalist regimes that, portend to be, havens of their religion, using religion to oppress people, truly don't care about religious things. They don't care about religion. Religion is a tool they are using to oppress the masses. It, like Marx said, it is the opium of the masses. Not in the sense that people go to religion to be, say, to find shelter from the norms. They do in part, but the way the capitalists are using it is they are using it as a way, as a balm to cover what they are doing to the people. They are using it as a way to almost drug the people into accepting what's going on. This doesn't mean religion is bad, necessarily. I am a religious person, but it means that it has been co-opted by the capitalist and used against the people. Secondly, and I think arguably the biggest reason is, most of the people who support Israel, who give the most money to Israel, particularly in the United States, are Christian Zionists, are like hardline Baptist Christian Zionists. These people don't care about Catholics. I think it's a divide we have here in the UK between Protestants and Catholics, but it is even wider in the United States. Like, at least here in the UK, you would consider a Catholic just a Christian. You would consider a Protestant a Christian. You would even consider Baptists or Seventh-day Adventists, maybe not Seventh-day Adventists, but Baptists, you would consider them Christian here in the UK. In the United States, they don't consider each other to be Christian. At the very least, these like hardline Christian Zionists, oftentimes like Baptists and other forms of Christianity, slightly more like extreme in the political wing, don't consider Catholics to be Christian because the way they practice Catholicism is very different. Kind of like how Sunnis don't consider Shias to be Muslim. I'm not getting involved in that. I'm just giving an example. So they don't care that these Catholics are being killed. Also, they believe that all the people dying in a result of this are worth it because it will cause the rapture. They believe a massive war will break out in the Middle East, or the Jewish people will return to the Middle East. When that happens, Jesus will eventually come back and say to all the Christians, I'm going to rescue you, and he's going to do the rapture and take them to heaven and leave everyone else here, and we're all going to die in a holy war. That's basically what these people believe. This is what these Christian Zionists believe. They are the biggest ones pumping money, I believe, into the United States, other than maybe like a couple of other groups who combined maybe pump in more. But the single individual people, like group, pumping the money in is the Christian Zionists. It has grown and grown over the past 20 or so years since the book The Israel Lobby came out, where they were seemingly quite small. All of these big Republicans who support Israel are Christian Zionists, the likes of Ted Cruz, Lindsey Graham. They're all Christian Zionists. Obviously, there is the point where they're just getting paid by the PACs, but some of them do genuinely believe this, like false narrative about the Middle East and about Israel. So that's why I don't think it's going to make that much of a difference. Maybe places like Italy, like Giorgia Meloni has criticized it. The Pope has released a vague statement criticizing it. But they're doing it also because they have large Catholic populations. You'll probably see Spain is a different circumstance. Ireland's a different circumstance, obviously. But you'll probably see places in South America where there is a predominantly Catholic population. They're going to condemn it as well because, they're Catholics being killed in this instance. There's Catholic churches being targeted in this instance. But the big players, the United States, I don't know how big the Christian Zionist movement is in the UK. If you know, comment down below and let me know. I'd love to know kind of how deep Christian Zionism goes here in the UK. I know there are Zionist groups, but theirs is more inspired by making money, investing and making money and all that stuff. But let me know in the comments down below if you know, because I don't really know. But yeah. Unfortunately, that's why I just think it's not going to make a difference, unfortunately. If every single Christian was slaughtered in Gaza and the West Bank, the West would say, that's very sad, like Kemi Badenoch said, these things just happen. Basically said, for Israel to defend itself, unfortunately, civilian deaths will happen and they will be investigated by Israel. Like, come on, man. This is like if I punched you and I said, I'm going to investigate why that punch happened. And I would just say, oh, it was an accident. I don't mean it. Let's move on. So yeah, unfortunately, the lives of Palestinians, regardless of their creed, their religion, their color, their social status, none of it really matters to Israel and the United States. They are willing to kill all these people because it will either, it's a step for them towards their goal of colonialization, and it's a step towards their goal of Jesus coming back and causing a holy war. God.